This is Get Sellers Calling You, and I'm Beatty Carmichael. Learn more at our website at getsellerscallingyou.com. Well, hey, this is Beatty Carmichael here in the, I guess you call us the office studio or something like that. Anyway, I want to introduce this podcast to you real quickly because this is an interview that I'm doing with a friend named Isaiah Colton. And he runs a really amazing marketing company for real estate agents. And he's interviewing me. We're about to do a marketing summit. And I wanted to share the interview with you because it really gives a lot of insight into the foundations of what happens in marketing. And you'll pick up a lot of great stuff from it. It was originally produced as a promotion for the marketing summit. So if you like the marketing summit, please, you'll see an email at some point probably from us on that. But more than anything else, I'd like you to understand, just in this dialogue, he's covering a lot of topics that I think you'll get a lot of benefit from and a lot of foundational things that as you start to apply in your business, you'll see it grow. I do want to apologize for one thing. My microphone wasn't working well. I didn't realize it until after the interview. So my audio is really kind of muffled and is not quite as clear as I would like it to be. When you go through that, just ignore that. Without any further ado, let me bring on the video and you have a blessed day.
Everybody, Isaiah Colton here, and this is another interview that we're doing for the Sales and Marketing Summit we have coming up February 2nd, and I'm really excited to be interviewing Mr. Beatty Carmichael here today, and he's going to share some awesome insights with us related to marketing and postcards. And we have a series of about 7 to 10 questions we're going to go through here with Beatty, and gain some insights of his many years of experience in business and in marketing. And we think you'll get a lot out of this, not just from a real estate perspective, but also, anytime somebody's been in business for a long time, there's just a lot you can learn in general. And so, Beatty, thank you for joining us for today's interview.
Well, thank you.
Just want to give you an opportunity, Beatty, talk a little bit about your background. Before we go ahead and get started, that'd be great.
Sure. Background pretty simple is been in business doing, first off, I got caught in marketing many years back, just getting out of college. And the idea of being able to create a marketing approach and just repeat it, and it constantly driving revenues. And so I started to do that in a couple of businesses I was doing with a buddy of mine. And we got some things going, and then we split partnerships. And I started a business in 1997, which is the same one that I'm still here. So it's one of the few that survived, right?
That's awesome.
Yeah, and just doing what I love to do, and that's creating marketing that repetitively works. Kind of fast forward 8 years ago, we shifted our corporate focus into real estate with that same mindset of how do you generate listings and how do you repeat that and constantly generate listings. And so that's kind of a very short synopsis of me in business.
Yeah, and it's, let's be real about it. Everyone says, you got to list the last, the listing leads and leverage, but there's not a lot of great systems out there that help agents do it. And that's what I love about what you've done is you've come up with a really strong system, using some methods that I think maybe some people have tried before in the past, had some success with, maybe not have had success with. But at the end of the day, it's not necessarily just the tactic, it's the strategy that goes along with the tactic that you're trying to use to execute. And that's what I like about working with you, Beatty. You bring the two together, which is great. And, let's talk a little bit about what you're going to talk about, at the summit, at the Sales Marketing Summit, and, and what you hope the viewers take away from that. If we could start there.
So one of the things that's most important is if you understand marketing, all we're doing is we're marketing to consumers, Isaiah. And I remember applying this with my first client. If I can go back, my first client, they were a telecom company and we were marketing business to consumer. Okay. And so we're helping them market to the consumers. And one of the regional directors called me up out of California and said, Beatty, this is the closest thing to resurrection of the dead that I've ever seen. I said, what do you mean? His name is Tom. And he said, I've got sales agents that haven't made a sale in a long time, that now they're using this marketing and it's just driving in sales to them. And we became their fastest growing system that they put in place. And so what we're going to be talking about at this Sales and Marketing Summit is, what are the ingredients that go into, how do you market to a consumer? In other words, most agents just, they don't know what they're doing. They just kind of follow the crowd. But if you leave the crowd behind and you start to take the approach and understand that there's a formula, you got to interrupt them, engage them, educate, and then you offer. And that whether you're doing that to identify sellers before they go on the market, or you're doing that to get them to believe that you're the best person out there. I mean, once you understand what the objectives are of what you're trying to shift their mindset positioning to, then accomplishing it is easy. Once you understand the principles, and everything I do, Isaiah, that I've been doing for years is based on a few fundamental marketing principles that once you understand the foundation, you can build any structure on top of it and produce results. That's what we're going to be talking about.
That's strong. And I already picked up your formula there too. If people were paying attention.
No. That's a private formula. You can't.
I'm not going to repeat it. Don't worry. But
no, I'm teasing.
Go to the seminar, check it out, or purchase if you weren't able to attend the seminar, you purchase the recordings to get that, because there was a key formula there that I hope people are paying attention to. So I want to get into my first question, Beatty, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely.
What books given, have you given out as gifts, and why? And the reason why I ask this question, folks, is because there's a lot of information out there, right? And so anytime you get a chance to talk to somebody successful, I want to know what they're reading. I want to know what they're recommending. So that's why I asked that question, Beatty, if you don't mind answering.
I don't mind answering. I'm not sure you want my answer, but let me define, okay?
Yeah.
My life is following Christ in business together. So books I read and things I do, there's not a separation.
Right.
The books I've given have been Christian books. The books that have influenced me most in business have been books I don't give, but I can recommend. So the book I've given the most, with that kind of as a background, there's a book called Secrets of the Vine by Bruce Wilkinson.
Okay.
And in a period of time, many years back in business, we were just having a real tough time. Business had grown and then it started to collapse. And I was trying to figure out what's going on. And I read this book, and it so simply illustrated, especially as a Christian, if things are going bad, it's either God disciplining or God pruning, okay, in a broad stroke. And I couldn't figure out which one it was until I read the book and I started saying, that makes sense. And I realized that it was kind of a combination of both. But it so turned my business around that I started giving that to all of our key clients, our VIP clients. And I'd buy them by the cases and we would send it out with a special note. So that's the book I've most given out.
That's awesome. Do you have maybe three books? I know you mentioned a couple there, but do you have any three books maybe that you could recommend?
Absolutely. Business-wise?
Yeah.
So the number one business marketing book I've ever read, I've read a bunch, I've gone to the seminars, and it's called Monopolize Your Marketplace by Rick Harshaw. I think it's still in print. It may not be, but that's where I got the formula: interrupt, educate, interrupt, engage, educate, offer. Okay. It takes every bit of marketing know-how. How do you understand what is your key differentiators that set you apart from everyone else? Has a simple process that you can take it down and actually start to implement and execute on your own. It's the most amazing marketing book. Outside of that, another book I would recommend is called Rhinoceros Success. It's a great little, probably 2-hour read. And Scott Alexander, I think is the name. But for any agent, because I got a cheat sheet of the questions you were going to ask me. What do you do that's different? How would you suggest? And this guy puts in real simple terms, how do you distance yourself from the crowd and actually go the way that works better than what everyone else is doing?
Yeah.
And then a third book that has really influenced me, this would probably be more for teams and top producers, but it's called Good to Great. And it's a business book. And what they did is they took large corporations, and they took a comparison where one went up and one went down, and they analyzed it, and they came down with, I think, 7 different key differentiators on what works in business that causes you to really get traction and grow and consistently grow. Those probably the 3 books that come top to mind.
Yeah, that's really strong. I've actually read that book a little bit later in my business career, and I'll tell you what, one of the things is getting the right people on the bus. That's what it talks about, and that's some of the biggest mistakes I've made around my entrepreneurship career is surrounding myself with the right people and getting the right people on the bus, and then if they're giving people an opportunity to work towards their strengths. It talks a lot about that, along with many other things, but it's a really awesome read. I haven't read the other ones, but I can say that it's a really awesome read, and it's something that I've worked through throughout my career too. So that's great, Beatty. That's some awesome insight to some different books that have impacted your business. It's really great. And this is a different question. I tried to come up with questions that were just not the same old like canned questions, right? So
right.
I know this one's a little bit different, but hopefully we get some very interesting responses. So whenever I ask this question, so what purchase of 100 hours or less has most positively impacted your life in the last 6 months or so? Give or take.
Yeah. Or so. I'll tell you the one that comes out. It's sitting in the corner. It's a lap desk from Costco, and I think it's probably $15 or $20. But it's allowed me to take whatever I do. Yeah. I have this beautiful deck on the backyard overlooking a gorgeous valley, and we have a swing, and so I can actually now take my work, and rather than just working in my lap, I've got a little desk there. And I'm so much more functional, so much more productive. So that's probably awesome. The biggest thing. Yeah.
That's awesome. And little things like that make a big difference, especially, when you're growing a business, the little tiny comforts or I think things that make our life a little bit easier are so important because, for me, as an example, I've been doing a lot of video shooting lately, and I've been doing shooting on my phone. And I found this gap, and I was having problems with like getting certain angles, and I was wasting so much time redoing videos. And I did that for months. And then I came across this gadget that follows me around.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, I've seen those.
Yeah, it follows me around, and it also helps me get different angles. It does a lot of really, really cool stuff. But no joke, I probably save 2 hours a week because of this gadget. So,
and when you look at your earnings per hour, how many hours you spend and how much money you make, it's amazing what it saves you.
It's amazing. So, as you're building your business, when things are going right or wrong, it comes down to people, process, and tools. And sometimes little tools like that.
I've got to show you one other tool.
Yeah.
Less than $100. The number one most productivity driving tool that I've ever had.
Yeah.
You ready?
Yep.
It's a Tungsten T3 Palm Pilot.
You still have a Palm?
I still operate off of them.
Oh my God.
I've got 3 in the closet in case it breaks. I've got backups on all the software. But man, I have never found anything just from the task management side of tasks and stuff that keeps me better organized more simply. So I actually still carry around a Tungsten T3, and here's kind of the message.
Do they still make those things?
No. Everything you buy is used and refurbished. And but here's kind of the message. This gets a little bit into what I'll share also is newer is not necessarily better. Okay, better is what is most productive that constantly drives results. Sometimes something newer will produce more results and you shift, but you don't shift simply because it's new. You shift when the results tank and you need something that brings the results back up.
That's some good advice right there, because, we can probably relate that to postcards too, right? In some ways. And I know for me, I'm huge on prospecting as being a cornerstone of your business. And sometimes these influencers that are out there right now, they're almost indicating that you don't necessarily have to follow up or prospect. to build a successful business, and there's some magic pill that does, does it all for you. And that drives me nuts, but that's a whole different topic. But that's really good. I like that. That was
Yeah,
really,
you like my tungsten T3?
oh man, I'm jealous. I'm jealous. Next question would be is how is failure, or I guess apparent failure, set you up for later success? And do you have any examples that you don't mind sharing with?
I've got a really great example. So when we came out of the chute, when we retooled our business in 2012 to work with real estate agents, our focus was geographic farming to generate listings. And I thought, oh, this is going to be simple. No one knows how to get a listing. You get all kinds of teaching on how to get buyers, but I couldn't find anything on how to generate sellers. I said, all it is direct response. Yeah. You identify. So we used our formula. We came out with a product and we launched it in the Southeast because that's where I live. Yep. And it just started generating listings all the time. But what's interesting is as we moved from Eastern US to Western US, the results started to plummet into literally no results. And, and our business was predicated, you got to generate listings for our clients. Yeah. And it wasn't working. So that was a failure that led us into some really deep dives in understanding the psychology behind that homeowner and the psychology behind, here in the South versus out West.
Wow.
And there's the difference. And when you boil it down, and what we pinpointed is there's this thing that we've labeled a trusting community. It has to do with that person's level of willing to trust someone they don't know versus they do know.
Interesting.
And that then led us into developing some really, now what we have is really well-developed content that really helps turn an agent's sales around. So we took that failure. In fact, I had a friend that was working with me back then, and he said, Beatty, this thing's just a failure. You just need to sell and get out. And I go, no, I know it can work. And the Lord hadn't brought me here just to bail. And had I taken his advice, we wouldn't be where we are today. And because I rejected it, we pushed through it. We figured out what happened. We started to develop content that started to build trust within people. Awesome. And drive even more business. So failure to turning around, and now you got great success.
Yeah, that's awesome. And there's so many different directions you can go with that conversation. Like, be careful who you listen to.
Yeah.
Right. Sometimes people don't know, can't see the full picture, but also sometimes we have to listen. Right. So there's that fine balance, and there's a decision-making process that I think that I think every entrepreneur needs to have hammered out. They need to have a specific strategy to make wise decisions, right? Because if you made a different decision, you would have never been able to experience the results that you've experienced, right? So
yeah, and there's also with that is I knew whatever was the obstacle could be overcome.
Right. You weren't living in la la land and fooling yourself.
I wasn't living in la la land. Yeah. I knew the value of, it takes so hard to get here. You don't just throw the baby out with the bathwater. Yeah. Sometimes I remember one of our clients, her name is Fran, 15, 20 years in real estate. Her business has just tanked and she was so depressed. She was about to quit. Yeah. And this isn't tooting my horn, but she started using us and this thing that we did to generate listing leads. And in six months, she made 100,000 in commission. Next 6 months, 100,000, and it just totally and it rejuvenated her business.
Right.
And she was about to throw it all away.
Right.
When you've worked so hard, you don't give up quickly, or you'll always give up quickly. So you stick with it.
Yeah, that's really good because again, usually whatever goal you're trying to go after, if others have done it and been successful at it. And it's not something crazy like you're trying to invent a different way to get to the moon, right? Then usually it can be fixed. If you're willing to go through the season of learning, and that's when it goes back to it's either the people, the process, or the tools. And if you can just figure out and be willing to hold on until you figure out which one it is, then that's when you'll see the results, just like that story that you told. So it's really good.
Well, on that same note, so the business I started in 97 was attempt number 11.
There you go.
So it's, I knew I could.
Yep.
And you just keep working until you make it.
That's right. That's really, really good. That's really good. I could go another direction there, but I'm going to go on to the next question because there's a lot of wisdom there too.
Yeah.
So.
You're listening to the Get Sellers Calling You podcast. To increase sales from past clients and sphere of influence or from a geographic farm, learn about Agent Dominator. We guarantee your sales in writing or give your money back. To learn more, visit our website at getsellerscallingyou.com and select Agent Dominator from the menu. And now, back to the podcast.
Next question is, what if you had a gigantic billboard? What would you say on it? And the world could see the billboard. What would you say on it?
Honestly, it'd be scriptural based.
Okay.
So I can go that direction, or I just want to be sensitive to who's out there. I love the Lord Jesus, and it would say, Jesus loves you.
Okay, awesome. That's good. So anything else? Because obviously, whether you're faith-based or not, and this is what these interviews are about, it's raw and real, and you're getting to know a person. And so I want to encourage people to state what they believe, and other people don't have to believe that. But when I do these interviews, it's all about this person and what's got them to where they are. And so I don't mind you sharing at all, Beatty.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
People either can choose to like the message or not. That's their choice too. Just like it's your choice to talk about what made an impact on your life. So
yeah.
No
so
problem.
the other one you're about to lead into, if I would take kind of the second message, it would be just never quit.
Yeah.
Things seem darkest just before the dawn. And there's been twice now that I've almost gone, I felt I was going into bankruptcy. And one time they're actually interviewing bankruptcy attorneys. And what's interesting is giving up is the easiest thing you can do. That's the hardest thing you can do, because once you give up, then you have to live with that decision the rest of your life and the repercussions. And had I given up, then everything I had built and invested in my life and would have been gone, and I'd have to start at zero. It's easier to take what you have, even if it's just a little bit, and hang on to it in the hope and the expectation that you can make it turn around. And then once it starts to turn around, you've learned so much. And so that'd be my second one, which, just never quit, never give up.
Yeah, that's so strong. Usually when it's the worst, you're on the edge of a breakthrough. That's what gives me comfort personally, is if I'm feeling that, what you're talking about, that feeling of like, should I keep going right now? I don't know what it is. But usually I've learned to take a little bit of comfort in that, because I've learned that if I don't give up and I keep pushing, I look at things from a different angle, I keep asking questions, I keep seeking the advice, whatever it may be, the breakthrough it means it's so close, right? So just keep that in mind, especially if you're ramping your real estate business up or you're scaling. You're going to run into different challenges at different phases of your business. For me, when we were building our brokerage, it was a lot different when we had 3 agents compared to 20. And then now that we have a branch in Florida, it's different than when we had 20 to 200. Same thing with employees, right? When I had 5 employees, my challenges were different than when I had 100 employees, right? So life has different phases, and you got to try to learn and adapt to what's in front of you, right? And so I think that's really important. And Beatty, next question here would be more along the lines of investing, not necessarily financially, but what do you think the most worthwhile investment you've ever made? And it doesn't have to be a financial investment like in a stock, but just any investment overall.
Yeah. Well, when I think of financial investment, or when I think of investment, really the simple answer when I was looking at that is investing in me and my business. Whether it's the schooling, not not formal schooling like this is the school of hard knocks. Okay, one of the greatest investments as a business owner, there's a group called Vistage, and it's a group of CEOs that meet in small groups. I would have been out of business in 2002, roughly, had I not joined that and actually learned what running a business was all about. But that's all investing in myself and investing in the work that I do. As a business owner, I can look at taking my cash and investing it in stocks, or taking that cash and investing it back in my business in the things that will grow it. And I'll get infinitely higher return investing in my business, where not only I have control and passion, but where I have more leverage than anything over in the stock world. And that investment in the business is not only investing in tools and technology, but most importantly, investing in me, because my business is me. It's a manifestation of me at large.
That reminds me of something, a book I read that Warren Buffett wrote. He said the number one investment that I've ever made, and this is a billionaire, right, was the investing in myself. It's something that he went out of his way to do consistently. And if Warren Buffett says it and Beatty Carmichael says it, we might better listen.
Yeah, well, I've got to tell you this one story where that resonates, because this is where I learned it. This very wealthy businessman was sharing at a convention, and he said he was in New York City. He was riding in the taxi cab, and in the front seat of the taxi cab were all these financial books. And so he's talking to the cab driver and said, "What are all those?" He said, "I'm learning to get my securities license. I want to start investing." And they start talking, and this cab driver had 5 or 7 other cabs that he owned. He had other people driving for him. And he was asking this wealthy businessman, "Where should I invest my money?" And he made this comment. It's never left me. He said, "You keep reinvesting in yourself until you hit the point of diminishing returns. And only then do you invest somewhere else."
Wow, that's so powerful. That's so powerful. That's really good. I like that a lot. All right. Next question is, what beliefs, behaviors, habits related to business have improved your life overall?
Last
5 years or so.
I have a pattern. You will never I won't set an appointment before 10:30 or 11 o'clock in the morning. As you and I talk, I didn't start my workday until about 12 or 12:30 that day. Which is not atypical either. So the most important thing in terms of a pattern that I do is the first part of my day, I have a quiet time, but it's when I plan my day and I plan the strategy. So I've got 2 lists going. I've got my long-term strategic critical path of what needs to be accomplished. And then I have my daily task items. And every day I'm constantly matching them up and making sure that the stuff I'm working on today is the most important thing for my number one critical strategic task.
Yeah, and these interviews that I've been doing, it's interesting. It's a common trend of people saying, the planning part is such a huge part, right? And their overall quality of their own life and also the success of their business. And priority is so huge. You want to talk about time and opportunity costs, right? And, it's so easy to get caught up, not focused on the most important thing.
Yeah.
Right.
I want to share one thing because it ties into that. So I'll go into my calendar and block out days that no interruptions, no appointments, because my personality, you and I are different personalities. Yep. You're the 90 miles a minute, do 20 different things and juggle them all. Yep. I juggle one thing at a time, Yep. So I have to get a lot of space, and so I'll block out the time and not allow interruptions, because those interruptions just destroy everything. So yep. I guard my time really, really diligently.
Yeah. And I think that's an important point, because you have to know yourself first, right? And how you function. Everyone functions a little bit differently, and build a system and a process around how you function best, and work towards your strengths, and have a plan that helps you work towards your strengths. I think it's really, really important, because no two people function or think the same way, right? So that's really good. What advice would you give? Maybe there's a lot of there's a lot of real estate professionals that are ramping up, and I know you work with a broad, diverse client base. But for somebody who's really driven, a driven real estate professional, they want to succeed. What's some real world advice that you could give that type of person?
Yeah. Number one, stay close to your personal contacts. Everywhere you look at all the studies and you talk to all the top agents, and the majority of their business comes from past clients and sphere of influence.
Yeah.
And so you really have to nurture that. And nurturing it is strategic. It's deliberate. It's not just sending stuff like an email or a postcard, though I vote for postcards a lot, but it goes along much farther than that. It's being willing to just, call them up, be a friend, say hi. The second thing is once you can grow your business organically that way, but if you want to shoot it up, you've got to go outside to the cold market. And most agents don't, okay? And so I remember one of my early clients, in fact, he's how you and I met. His name is Josh Vernon.
Yep.
And when we started working with him, he was a 3-year agent doing 100 transactions a year. And I finally interviewed him on my podcast, and I started to learn the background, and he just took all of his money, everything, and he would pour it into marketing and advertising, and he just drove business. He's not and I would say this in front of him, he's not the sharpest real estate agent. That doesn't mean he's not sharp. It's not that he grew because of some magnetic personality.
Yeah.
He ran it as a business.
Yeah. And that's so important too. And that's what the Sales and Marketing Summit and what we teach is all about. Is if you look at our flywheel methodology that we teach, and when you're looking at your business as a whole, our responsibility is to get attention and keep attention in our businesses and keep attention long enough to give them a great client experience and earn their business. So then they want to help us do the same thing. And it sounds like that's what Josh did. Is he just had a really good sales and marketing plan. He executed on it. He drove business, and it helped make him successful. And
he wasn't afraid to experiment. So he came to us, and then I want to share how great he was. Okay. He came to us in the first year of our marketing in his particular area. Our postcards produced no results for him for an entire year. And so he called me up and he said, Beatty, I believe this can work, but I need some help. Can you help make it work? Is there anything else you can do? So here's a guy, he just spent thousands of dollars, got 0 results, but he wasn't going to give up quite so quickly. And I said, well, this was just after we identified that there's this trusting thing. I said, well, we're working on this thing to build trust. Let's experiment with it. We started to put it in place with in his farm. And within 4 months of getting it fully engaged, he was getting 2 listings every single week.
Wow.
It's totally turned around. And then he started business with you. And so one of the things that was really interesting, this is the key, I think, with him and others that I've seen, he's not afraid to risk an investment to see if it works. And so he doesn't, most agents, they're afraid. They look at their money as in their own pocketbook. I'm giving you a car payment, and I could have had that car for myself. He doesn't look at it that way. He's building a business, and he's going to test. He's going to see what works. And if it's not working, before he throws it out, he's going to say, I think something can work. Let's work on it a little bit more.
Yeah, I think it's really powerful as a person who's building themselves and building a business. For somebody that sees money as a finite resource, it's really hard to build a business with that mindset. Even though you got to be careful and strong with your resources, but money needs to be a tool. It's a huge part of growth, and sometimes that comes with having to take educated risks, and sometimes you have to be prepared. Some things are going to work out, some things aren't. But money can also replenish itself, right? It's not like time where you can't get it back. And that's I think a really powerful principle being a professional in any business is to remember that about money, right? And so, and also when you are investing it, that's why it's so important to invest in yourself, because you get reoccurring, consistent returns as long as you do the right things with what you've invested, right? So good stuff. Next question. What advice do you think people should be ignoring right now?
Well, everyone else does it that way. If it begins with that, ignore it.
Yeah. If you hear that, run the other way, right? Everyone else is doing it, right? You definitely do not want to make your decisions off of that. Usually it's, we won't go there, but yeah, that's really good. That's really good. What do you think some harmful recommendations that are you hearing from real estate professionals in the community, in your area of expertise?
That's a good one. And I don't have a good answer because I'll be honest, I'm not listening to many people. No, I don't know how to say this, and I hope it comes out well.
Yeah.
I don't know many people in my niche of marketing that's really pushing the envelope that I'm out there listening, because I don't know that they really exist.
Yeah.
I know there's some great people in social media that know how to get the message out. There's some great people elsewhere, but in my niche, I haven't found anything. So I really don't have a good answer to that one. I apologize.
Yeah. One of the things that I think I see a lot of companies in your field push is graphics over messaging, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I think that's a big one, which I think you're going to train on that. So we won't give that away today, but
okay. Can I share what we're going to say, dude? I won't show that. I'll tell you the sizzle, not the steak.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay. So we mailed over 2 million postcards testing 21 different split marketing tests and over 37 different message variations to understand what really works. At the beginning of my session, we're going to go through the most important split marketing test that I did. So split marketing test, as you probably know, Isaiah, is where you take, you're doing the same marketing, except you only change one variable, the headline, the color, the font. And we found things that would change the impact of results. 200, 300, 800, 850%. And when I look at agents today, they're totally ruining their opportunity for driving results because they just don't understand this. In fact, we're about to pick up an account just here locally. The guy's going to be spending $3,000 a month with us. He's a team leader. And I'm driving past his sign. He has a for sale sign at a house. And it was so beautifully designed graphics, I couldn't even read his name. And I'm driving by and I'm saying, that's the most important thing. So I call him up and I say, can I give you some marketing advice? And actually showed him the split marketing test and say, no one's able to even read your name on your sign. But people go to graphics and they just forget that it's all about, in fact, this is something really interesting. Let me just tell you. So they did a test. There's 2 types of fonts. I get excited on this stuff. I apologize. But this is where people mess up. So there are 2 types of fonts. You have serif and sans serif. Do you know the difference between those?
Yes.
Okay, so serif, for those who don't know, got little curly cues, okay? And sans serif is real straight up and down. So in my age group, I don't know about you're a little bit younger than me, but I'm in mid-50s. So most of the real estate agents out there, most of the people who are selling a home that other than a starter home, they're going to be in this age group that they've grown up reading newspapers, magazines, prints, things of that sort. And it's always a serif font. And so they did a study. They found that while the readership of serif versus sans serif, serif is about 100% readership, sans serif is 80%, but the comprehension of what was read is more on serif than sans serif. And so it's just little things like that when we're communicating to our clients, are we communicating in a way that they see it, they read it, they comprehend it, that they choose to act on it? And
It sounds like a really interesting training. So
yeah, so it's going to be great.
I can't wait to hear it.
Yeah, me
and
too.
If you're watching this on recording after the summit, you definitely purchase the training and the recordings because I mean these are the type of thing. This is the type of stuff you're probably not going to hear anywhere else. This is in-depth sales and marketing strategies, and that's just one example of what Beatty's going to be talking about. So awesome. Next question. What? How do I ask this? How do you? Every entrepreneur has to say no, right? So,
Yeah.
how have you become better at saying no? And what approaches do you recommend to that you could share that have helped you over the past 5 years so you don't get too distracted towards your goals?
So I read a book, actually listened to it on Audible, on Steve Jobs. This was shortly about the time he died, I think, and but it was written prior to that. And it was talking, and the part that stood out the most to me was his ability to say no to good things so he would have the time and the focus on great things. And when he took over Apple after they brought him back, the first thing he did is he killed all of the extraneous product lines that were profitable, making money, but they were sapping the corporate energy from being great.
Wow.
And then he had a vision of where this could go. And as people would bring good ideas to him, they were always good, but they weren't the greatest. And so he would say no to those to stay focused on the great. With me, I've tried to apply that same thing. People come to me with these good ideas, how we can improve our stuff. And I've learned that you can't do them all. In fact, one of the things that took me almost out of business, and this also, all this Steve Jobs and me almost going bankrupt, all kind of were about a similar time frame. So first 15 years of our business, we were serving a different professional to consumer marketing groups. And we try to become a jack of all trades as opposed to a master of one. And so within our system, you could get all kinds of tools and services. We were great at one set. All these others, they were competitors that were much better than we were. And this goes back to good to great. Find out where your hedgehog concept is.
Yep.
And so when we retooled and launched back into the real estate industry, the easy thing was no to everything except one thing: driving listings. If it doesn't drive listings, the answer is no. And if it doesn't drive listings within the confines that we're wired to do, we won't touch it. Let someone else play in that sandbox. But for us, it's one thing where we do well.
And it's really good, Beatty. And that's to bring that back into real estate. You got to make sure that whatever you're signing up to, or whatever you're listening to, or whatever seminar you're going to, it matches your business plan. And if your business plan is to get more listings and you want to dominate the listing side of the business, you can't get too distracted doing too many other things, because you have to be able to master the system and master the process. And to be great, it requires focus, right? And it's not to say that you can't move on. And this is the biggest misconception about entrepreneurship, is that it's not to say that you can't move on. And if you can find somebody else, maybe you hire a listing agent to do that niche, or take over that niche for you. You want to go do something else or set up another niche. It just means for a period of time, until you have the right other people in place, you have to stay focused on it. And I've made that mistake in a big way, where growing business is very big, and doing a lot of different things at one time and not having the right people in place to do it, thinking I could do it all. And then it gets to a certain point, right? You can't. And next thing you know, you want to talk about diminishing returns. Your time and opportunity costs are insane. Your operational costs are insane. Your lead generation isn't getting followed. There's so many things that start going wrong, because if you really want to scale a business and run an effective sales and marketing plan, it requires focus, right? And so that's such great advice, Beatty, is to stay focused until when? Well, you'll know. Until it's generating a certain amount of profits, number one. Number two, until you have somebody else in place that can focus on it for you, because somebody's got to focus on it, right? And until you have something that's going to bring you to greatness, that's even better than what you're doing. So
keep focusing until you no longer need to focus.
That's right. That's right. So next question. This is the last one. When you're feeling overwhelmed and maybe unfocused, do you have anything that's practical that people can do
Yes.
and apply to get themselves back on track?
I get that a lot because for me, when I have too many things coming at me, I just kind of implode.
Mm-hmm.
Or if I'm trying to juggle a couple critical things all at one time,
Yeah.
what I find is the best thing for me when I feel I get in that, I call it a mental funk. I just put up and I go take a 15, 20-minute walk through the neighborhood,
Nice.
just clear out my brain, come back. And what's interesting is I'm doing that. My brain's working and it's processing kind of behind the scenes. I always carry my tungsten T3 with its recorder because I'm making all these verbal notes, or I carry, actually do, you see, I do have current technology. I got an Android and I'm using that stuff and I'm jotting notes down as they come, but I just go clear my brain and come back and I'm focused right back at work again.
Yeah, that's really powerful. But everyone needs some sort of mechanism that is healthy that they can use to refocus. And I think that's a really great one. It's something that I started doing recently after COVID when I started working at home more, is doing the same thing, Beatty, is just purposefully and intentionally getting outside. There's something about the outdoors that will refocus somebody and bring perspective. And I think that's really, really strong advice. That's awesome. Beatty, would you like to leave us off with anything before we end the interview?
If you have any interest at all in driving listings consistently, if you're willing to do any investment at all to do something more than just pick up the phone and call someone you really need to come to what I'm going to teach, because, and you also need to buy the book, Monopolize Your Marketplace, okay? Because once you understand the foundations of what works, then you can just run with it and drive business. So I encourage you, you need to show up.
Beatty, thanks a lot for taking the time to do this interview. I know you have a lot going on, and I look forward to interacting and talking with you soon down the road.
Very good. You have a blessed day. Thanks.
Okay, you too. Thanks.
If you've enjoyed this podcast, be sure to subscribe to it so you never miss another episode. And please like our Get Sellers Calling You Facebook page. Also, if you want to increase sales from past clients and sphere of influence, dominate a geographic farm, or convert home valuation leads, check out our Agent Dominator program. We create custom content that differentiates you from other realtors, then use it to keep you top of mind with your prospects with postcards, targeted Facebook ads, email campaigns, video interviews, and more. And the best part is we guarantee your sales or give all your money back. Learn more at GetSellersCallingYou.com and select Agent Dominator in the menu. Thanks for listening to the Get Sellers Calling You podcast. Have a great day.